Hey lady, welcome back. I have just been meditating on these cards for you. We are working with the Wildwood Tarot today. Let me grab that book real quick. This is the Wildwood Tarot. It is based on the year of the wheel, so it's more earth-based spirituality, which I really love. Not most decks. I mean, not all decks are like based on any kind of spiritual practice, but this one was designed around that, and that's something that there's a lot of power and meaning behind these cards. So I've been drawn to them a lot recently during this season, and they've had some pretty powerful messages lately for people. So I've been sticking with that. I've been meditating on you, and what I usually do while I'm shuffling is just really ask Spirit for whatever message needs to come through for you. And so that's what we're working through here. There was something else I was going to... Oh. I also felt like I felt like Spirit wanted me to share a message with you from the Universe Has Your Back deck, which is this guy. And these are really great cards. If you ever want to pick up a deck where you can just draw a card every day and meditate on it, it's a really good deck. Pretty awesome messages as well. So I'm going to pull a card from here, and I'll share that one first. Okay, so here's the card. When I lean on certainty and faith, I change my mind about the world I see. Okay, so I'm not going to spend really any time talking about that, but that was just something that I felt like needed to be shared here right at the beginning. And yeah, so just disclaimer, as we're going through the reading, I would recommend that you have a journal or a piece of paper and a pen handy. What I've been telling people lately, this is just something that came to me recently, is to write what you hear. Okay, so not necessarily what I say, but what you hear. And I think what has been shown to me is that oftentimes the message is, it's always going to be your interpretation of it is the message that's the most right for you. So don't necessarily, when you're making notes and stuff, obviously feel free to pause as you need to, but don't feel pressured to get down word for word what I said, but rather what you heard, or what you heard, or an impression you took away. Sometimes imagery, songs, and smells even might come up, because I do believe Spirit works with our senses. So yeah, there's that. As always, take what resonates with you, leave behind what doesn't. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to message me after you've listened to your reading. And some of the feedback I've been getting lately too is that people will listen to their message multiple times over time. So take what you get from it now, but then maybe revisit it in a week or so and see what stands out to you then. Because it may be very different, and you may find that you get kind of multiple readings, in a sense, in one. All right, so we're just going to jump right in. All right. So working with the Celtic Cross spread here, I'm going to show you what we've got going on. This is my sacred tarot space. I've got some crystals. I've got, this guy's one of my favorites. I don't know if you can see it. I've got this beautiful Amethyst. I don't know what this one is, but I like the shape of it. It's kind of funky. This one, I don't know what this is, but a friend sent this to me a couple years ago, and I'll tell you what, I vibrate every time I hold this one. If you don't have any kind of crystals or rocks, I would highly recommend doing that. There's a store on the north side of Indianapolis called New Age People, and they have a lot of crystals, and they actually have crystal classes and stuff. My friend Beth goes to them, but when you hold one and it vibrates, that's usually one that wants to come home with you, and it's got some power to it. So you might want to pick it up. All right. So jumping in here, the card that is in the position of the place where who you are presently, or where you are presently, is the Eight of Bows, Hearthfire. And there are a lot of things this card can be. One of the things I get is strategy building. So there's almost this sense that like everyone's gathered around the fire. They've got their bows ready. They are toasting, but there's a sense of like we're getting ready to go into battle, and we've gathered around the fire to rest, kind of have a preliminary rest, to strategize with each other, to develop a game plan for what we're doing here, and also companionship, right? Like they've got their arms around each other. And so this can be internal or external. I'm getting the sense that it's internal, that like all the parts of you are gathering. There's a sense of camaraderie there, and they're really like, let's get serious about this. Let's develop a game plan. We're walking into something huge, and we need to know how we're going to do that, and what's the best way possible. Recent past is the cave bear, or the great bear, excuse me. And this is a very spiritual card. It's number 20 in the Major Arcana. And the great bear, it's this guardian of the other world, okay? And what I get from this card is that there is this really sacred space that's also very mysterious. The great bear guards that. It's a very sacred energy. It's also the Big Dipper, Ursa Major up here. Ursa meaning bear, Major being the bigger of the two, so major and minor. And it's almost the sense that like, well, let me get the near future first. The Page of Vessels, which is the otter. And in this deck, the vessels corresponds with cups, which really has to do with the emotional world, and sometimes that spiritual connection to our emotions. The otter is a very diverse animal. It can not only survive but thrive on both land and water. So it's a really fascinating animal. Symbolically, what that means for us is that a person who is an otter type person can navigate and transverse both the physical realm and the spiritual realm. So, and can easily go back and forth between the two. And that's kind of the sense that I'm getting with these cards, is that like there's been an experience in your recent past that was a spiritual awakening of some kind for you. And it's like now in the future, you're kind of like rallying the troops to say, all right, what do we do with this information? How do we move forward? And then the near future is that you've become this being that can move back and forth very easily from the spiritual world to the physical world, and very adept, if you will. The card that's overlaying these is the Archer, and this is a Major Arcana card, so when it overlays those three cards I just mentioned, the recent past, the present, and the near future, it serves as either a bridge or a barrier. And I would say this one is a bridge. The Archer is giving you some hints as to how to get to this spiritual place that you're aiming for. And it's interesting because arrows corresponds with swords, and bows corresponds with wands in the traditional tarot. And swords is communication, wands is spirituality. And and so what I think is really fascinating about this is we have all the folks here, and they've got their bows. So they have that connection to spirit, but they don't have the arrows yet, which is the more practical. You have to have the arrow if you're going to have a bow, otherwise a bow is useless. And so I think this is a challenge really to begin equipping yourself, and to, because we're talking about a spiritual context, what I'm getting from that is that you've sensed the calling, you're ready to follow it, but you need the preparation period that comes with transformation. And so it's learning how to effectively aim an arrow and shoot it. And in this case, with the archer, it's how, and so that being like how to accurately use the spiritual to communicate a message. And this doesn't mean that you have to this isn't evangelism, like what Christianity would purport, which is that like if you're going to be a good Christian, you're going to tell everybody about Jesus, and that's not the case. But what comes with spiritual wisdom is usually relationship wisdom, like life wisdom, all of these other things that I think it's time for you to learn how to integrate them into your life, and how to get the communication and the spiritual sides of you to work together in harmony. So I think about like what something I've done, and what I know that several other people have done is going through a spiritual direction class. For me, I did that at my church almost 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago. And we spent a lot of time together. We spent 9 hours in class together, talking through like issues that face our spirituality and the church, and how to practice sitting with ourselves. How do we feel about God? Like owning all of those things. And I'm sorry if I'm talking really fast. I feel like things are just like kind of like just going through me, and it's the strangest feeling. But that may be something to look into, is spending some time with other people in a committed community that is focused on spiritual direction, guidance, and growth. So the feeling I'm getting here is that there's a deep spiritual transformation happening for you, and I think it centers around understanding what your mission is here in this life, and then accepting that. The one thing that's really fascinating to me is that there are a lot of major arcana cards in this spread. And major, so there's the minor arcana and the major. The major is like the archer, where it just has a number and then the name. And they are it's a very potent message. The minor arcana will have a number and a suit, and then as well as the name. And they're still strong messages, but they tend to be a little bit more transient, a little bit more fleeting. Whereas the major arcana cards are really like solid, powerful messages. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 10, so almost half of the cards here are major arcana cards. So this is a strong message, like something really powerful is happening within you. And I think if you can find a community and a teacher to help guide you and help you understand what it is that you're experiencing, that will be really helpful. And I know you may be asking like, but how do I do that? Honestly, just ask. You ask for it, hey, I don't understand what's happening. Can you provide someone to help show me the way? And then be open to it. So that's always the second thing to asking, is that you have to be open to receiving if you're going to ask for something. In the hopes and fears, there's hopes and fears on the top and bottom of this. In the hopes position, it is number 19 of the major arcana, and that's the Sun of Life. And I really love this card. I think it's amazing. And what I really love about it is that the light, that's the light of this person, is like the divine is within each of us. And I think for you, there is this hope, like you're beginning to recognize that, you're beginning to recognize really the power of the gift that you've been given, and that you really hope it will radiate out, like that you will be a being that just is able to stand in the sun, fully in the sun, fully exposed and vulnerable, because this person is also completely naked. It's also a bit of an androgynous person, like it doesn't really have clearly defined genitalia, which says to me it's like this person is a perfectly balanced masculine and feminine person. Anyway, but I think there's this hope that, like, when you come to terms with this thing that you've been given and this calling that you have, I don't know if calling is the right word, mission, maybe, that you will shine, like that you will shine bright, and that the divine will shine out of you, and you'll be able to share that with people. In the fear category, we've got the Queen of Bows, which is the hair. And the thing that sticks out to me about this, there are two major things. One, the sun that we saw blazing so strongly in the last card is now hidden behind the clouds. And the look on this bunny's face, like, I don't know if you can see that, but there is like a look of genuine terror. And I think it's there. The fear portion for you is that you're misunderstanding what's going on, and it's not as special or as important as you had originally perceived, and that you should be like, there's almost this paranoia that the bottom's going to drop out at any time, like that what was promised to you is too good to be true. And so you have this wariness, paranoia, where you're always looking around and just looking for that thing, like waiting for that thing to happen, for the other shoe to drop. And when you do this, you obscure the light, right? That's what these clouds are doing. And to me, that's kind of a visual representation of what fear does. It obscures the light that's trying to shine into our lives, that we are trying to relax into. So the good news is you've got the Four of Stones, which is protection. And I love this baby deer because it's a reminder that anytime we step into something new, we are vulnerable. And I think that's also part of the paranoia here, is like the fear of recognizing like how vulnerable you are by embracing this and allowing yourself to be transformed into the person that you know will be living into that mission. And the beauty of this is, I love that these Stonehenge rocks are really kind of hemming in the deer. I mean, the deer still has freedom and it's sitting in the sun, and there's grass there to eat. It's in no way caged, but it is being divinely protected. And I think that is available for you as well. Whether or not you ask for it, it's happening. And hopefully with that, you feel encouraged to kind of relax into the process of your journey. Because the beauty of something like this is, and then I know you have children, so you can understand this analogy. You can hopefully relate to it. Apart from like feeding yourself well and getting good exercise and taking supplements, when we're growing a baby inside of our bodies, there's very little that we do. There is almost this divine level trust that everything's going to go according to plan. And there is so much that has to happen in order for that baby to grow into the human that we give birth to. And honestly, that's what's happening here. It's almost like with the spiritual revelations, like you just recognized you're pregnant. And I think there's this drive and push to get that baby born and raise it up. But gestation takes time. And it takes time and it takes trust that you are doing the right thing just by being open, just by asking for a teacher or a guide. You know, moms don't just have the babies, they go to a birthing class. They find a doctor or a doula or a midwife. They do their natal appointments. Like their OBGYN appointments. Like they assemble a support network. And that's essentially what I was suggesting with the Archer card, is to assemble your support network. You are pregnant with something, you need guidance on what nutrients you need, what actions to take, but mostly you just need trust in the divine, that it's being grown and developed and incubated in a way that is ultimately going to serve you and serve the people that you're hoping to reach. I should also clarify that I don't mean a religious group or a religious path in any way, shape, or form. I am not a person who equates spirituality with religion, so I will never put that layer on top of this. However, you may find, sorry, I had to get something off my computer. You may find that the path that you want to take, that you're being most led to, is a religious path. You may find that, and I'm not saying you will. But you may find that you want to combine religious tradition with your spiritual practice, and that's more than fine. Like, it's again the trust that this is going to develop as it should. Another ally you have on your side is the Queen of Arrows, which is the Swan. And this equates to the Queen of Swords in a traditional tarot. I want to pull up the Queen of Arrows and just see what they have suggested about her. So the Queen of Arrows, it says, a state of separation may exist, bringing with it sorrow, privation, and misfortune. You may need to break old bonds and find new rivers in which to swim if you are to move beyond this place of darkness and loss. And that says it says that this is all about facing unpleasant truths, not bearing fools gladly, sorrow from loss, assessing things accurately, rational explanation or scientific view, going to the heart of things. Sadness lingers. So there's almost a sense of coming to terms with this is not an easy process for you, because what it may mean ultimately is that you have to break ties with the life you've led up to this point. And that could be in the form of a career path, a relationship. It could even be a location. It says specifically that the swan sometimes needs to find new waters to swim in. And I think, and speaking from experience, distance can be a really healthy thing when it comes to healing the trauma or the damage is done in the past. And so finding a new location where you can reestablish yourself as your own being, apart from anything or anyone that came before, it could be a really healthy thing. So if that's something that you've been contemplating, I think that the universe is behind you on that. and that you will be well supported. Um, another person on your team here, person, place, thing, is number 5 of the major arcana, the ancestor. And the ancestor in this deck is the shit. If I can say that in your tarot reading here. The ancestor is the connection. The ancestor is essentially like the divine being that connects us to the spiritual realm, and also guides us. This is ultimately our guide through the wilderness. So your guide is there. When I was suggesting that you should find a guide, your guide is there. At least the spirit of your guide, of a guide, is present, and it's the ultimate guide. It's like spirit with a capital S, guide. So ready and waiting for you. All you need to do is ask. And so sometimes what asking means is getting really clear on what you're looking for. I think that, at least from my experience and what I've heard from my teachers, is that really in order to receive, you need to be clear about what you're asking for. And if you're wish-washy at all, or if you are undecided, then you're not going to get an answer. And sometimes that only prolongs our frustration because we feel like we're not being seen and heard. And that's not the case at all. You are absolutely being seen and heard. In fact, like, you're an incredibly valuable being. It's just that if you don't know what you want, spirit cannot bring it to you. It doesn't know what to bring. It's confused. So I would really recommend spending some time in meditation and quiet spaces, however that looks to you. For me personally, I like to wake up and do a meditation right out the gate. And you can do it however you like. You can do just a quiet meditation, stilling your mind, set a timer, deep breaths, that kind of thing. You can do a guided meditation, and there are a lot on YouTube. If you want some suggestions, I'd be happy to share some that I have done that I really liked. But spend some time in meditation and really calming and quieting and loving on yourself first, and then assess what it is your heart really wants. Especially in regards to whatever this mission is. You know, if it's like one of those, I'll just share a personal example. I really feel like going to school to be a doctor is my mission in this world. I'm a healer. I am meant to share the healing arts with people, to make them available to not just people who can afford them, but to many different people. But as a result of going back to school, I have been incredibly unstable when it comes to money. I have not had the money that I need regularly. I have, currently I am behind on several bills. And so that's been part of what I've been asking is, okay, I am more than willing to fulfill this mission you've given me. In fact, like, it's my strongest heart's desire, which is usually when you know you're on the right path, because your heart will let you know. But I need to be provided for. I need to be taken care of. I can no longer go, through this state of not having what I need to survive. So, and I think a part of, my hesitancy with saying that was carrying around my own sense of responsibility that I had to do it all. And I think acknowledging finally that I couldn't do it all, and then realizing I'm not responsible for doing it all, I was able to ask for what I need from spirit. And I've seen that come through in some ways, and some others it's just a deeper trust game that we're playing with each other. And but I would encourage you to get really clear on what it is you want, and start want and need, and based on your heart. Okay, this can't be your ego driving. This has to be your heart driving. So if you do have an idea, I want you to go back to your heart and just say, heart, is this you? Is this something you want? And see how it feels. And if it's like, yes, 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 go for it. If it's like, nah, then that was probably your ego telling you to do that because so-and-so thinks you should, or you think you should, or society thinks you should, or whatever. Generally, the heart doesn't play those games. So it doesn't care too much what other people think. It knows what it wants and it goes for it. And then all that to say, our resolution card here is the Six of Arrows. Transition. Um, you're going the you're gonna go through a transition period. Um, it's gonna feel murky. It's gonna feel dark. It's gonna feel unknown. The beauty is over here we've got the sun rising here in the background. So no matter how you feel, what you feel you are being faced with, you are being backed by the hope of change, the hope of clarity, um, and the hope of dream fulfillment. Um, so I just got that I should pull 2 more cards for you. I'm going to do that. Whew. So we have the number 13 of the major arcana, which is the journey, and 6 of bows, which is abundance. So, I think it's important to remember that the journey of transition, and especially the journey to becoming more fully who we are, it can really be laced with a lot of death and seemingly destruction and dark nights. What I love about this, the abundance card being right after that, is that there's a fire. It's brighter. It feels warmer. So what I'm getting is that this is the perception of what your journey looks like, whereas this is the reality. There's actually abundance waiting for you. You're surrounded, essentially. This is a circle, right? Look down here, all this food. There's a warm fire. You're actually surrounded by abundance during this period of time. Your journey need not be grueling and desolate, okay? You actually have resources and community surrounding you in abundance. And this might be just a matter of looking around and acknowledging that that's the case. One book that's been on, it's funny, like this book, I swear every reading I've done, it's been like, you need to recommend this book. Not sure if you read this, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's a very short, easy read. My copy has less than 200 pages in it. It is a allegorical story, which means that it's not meant to be read like a typical fiction story, and it's not meant to be read literally. It's a story that represents all of our journeys if we decide to take them. About a young guy who is chasing his dream and ends up on a path where he crosses paths with an alchemist. And an alchemist is a bit of a spiritual mystic guru type. They theoretically can turn lead into gold and have the elixir for everlasting youth. And so he travels with several people who he travels with a gentleman who is pursuing the alchemist, actually. And he is like, oh, here's how. He's like, the alchemist wants me to prove myself. Here's how I do that. It's by tediously following all the rules and steps necessary to try to turn lead into gold. And the boy who ends up studying with the alchemist, comes to find out that like only people who need to do that will actually be able to do that, but also that it comes from a different place, like that kind of strength and creation and innovation and transformation, it comes from a very different place. It comes actually from a place of deeply being attuned to your heart, and then to all of the forces around you, all the spiritual forces around you. So anyway, I'm not going to go too far into it because there are some real gems. Actually, let me see if there's a quote I can share with you. This is The Alchemist. And a quote: when a person really desires something, All the universe conspires to help that person to realize his dream, said the alchemist, echoing the words of the old king. The old king was someone he was introduced to before. The boy understood. Another person was there to help him toward his destiny. So, are you going to instruct me? No, you already know all you need to know. I am only going to point you in the direction of your treasure. So, I have a feeling that will be your teacher as well. When you find your teacher in your group, is that they will serve as an empowering reminder that you know all you need to know and you have everything you need. You just need to know the direction to go. And that's where having a teacher, a guide, a tribe, if you will, I don't really like that word, but a community of people will help you at least know the direction, if not the destination of where you're going. It's big work what you're doing, and I want to validate and affirm that. If it feels big, it's because it is. If it feels like work, that's because it is. But it's also a time for you to trust, to sit down and rest and trust that what's incubating is good and it's for your greater good, which inevitably will spread out and ripple out to everyone you know or are related to, into being good for them. That's kind of the power and the beauty of our journeys, is that the more we lean toward healing and integration and all this stuff, the more that pulls the collective conscious in that direction, even if just by a tiny little bit. So the work you're doing is powerful, and it's going to have great influence and impact on people, even if you don't know until you're super old or in heaven or wherever we go after. So that is all that's coming to me at this point. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to message me. I'm also looking to, I think I have about 9 more spots this month for tarot readings, and I would love any referrals that you have. Right now, I'm offering a $5 credit. If you refer someone to me and they book a reading, I will give you a $5 credit towards your next reading. And I know that you enjoy these, so feel free to spread the word. And that's unlimited. So if you can refer 10 people to me, I will give you a $50 credit, okay? Which is a free reading, basically. So, take care. Many blessings to you in your pursuit, in your journey. And just know that I will be here if you need support. I'll be happy to walk alongside you. Blessings.